Right, well, obviously, really disappointed that Gillian Keegan, who's the Minister for Education, can't be with us in person today, but delighted that she was able to join us for this pre-recorded interview. And Gillian, I know you were so looking forward to coming to the conference because you've got a Liverpool connection, haven't you?
I am from Liverpool and all my family are still back there. So yeah, every time I come up, I was actually there just a couple of weeks ago at Camel Laird. Every time I come up, I stay at my mum and dad's in Halton, and yeah, it's fantastic. So I am disappointed, and it's only because we're all away with all my colleagues that I couldn't make it. But we'll do something in future.
Absolutely, we're looking forward to, as I say, getting you to a live event in person. And I won't mention that you're a dirty red, but we'll move on from that.
I've
And
told you before, Frank, it is blue for politics and red for football. The occasional person got a different memo.
well, listen, as I say, disappointed you can't be with us on the day of the conference, but delighted that you've found time to just have this chat to us virtually, so to speak. And your background, I think, lends itself to the job that you've now got as Minister for Education. Just tell people briefly your career journey, because I think that will explain why you're such a good fit for the role that you've got now in government.
Yeah, it does. I was asked that question once by a journalist, and he said, "Do you think your life has been leading to this role?" And I said, "Well, probably without me knowing it, it has." So I grew up in Halton. I went to a comprehensive school in Halton, in Knowsley, and I did all right at school, actually. I got 10 O levels, but there was nowhere to go with the O levels at that time. We've talked about this, you know, it was in the 80s. The schools in Knowsley were very challenged, as it were. So my teacher, who was kind of supporting me, basically suggested an apprenticeship. So I left school at 16 and started an apprenticeship in Delco Electronics in Kirby. So quite a few of people may be familiar with that or may have heard of that. And that was basically part of the General Motors Group. And it was a 3-year, what would now be called a rotational degree level apprenticeship. So I went to Kirby College first, and they sponsored me to go to Liverpool John Moores to do 1 day a week. And I did further up to degree level. So I am actually the only degree apprentice in the House of Commons, which I enjoy saying, because I'm a huge fan of high level apprenticeships. I stayed there in the car factory for about 7.5 years. I went up the procurement route. Then I ended up working in NatWest Bank. From there, I ended up spending a couple of years in Tokyo, which was basically procuring all the things that you now use for payments on the chips on the cards, the payment cards. So I've always been involved in big changes in technology and quite big multinational businesses. I then lived in Spain for 8 years, a company called Amadeus, which was a big tech company in the travel industry. I came back from there, and then I took some time out to do something called a Sloan Fellowship, which is like an MBA that you do at London Business School. It's for people who've got a lot of business experience. By that time, I've been working about 20 odd years by then. And then I did a bit more in the corporate world, and then randomly ended up as an MP because I met somebody at the theatre, and they said to me, "Have you ever thought of being an MP?" And I said, "No." Anyway, it's such a quick journey, but I'm always up for a challenge. As you know, supporting Liverpool, I'm always up for a challenge. But yeah, I had a fantastic career. I spent nearly 27 years in business. I started as an apprentice. I worked my way up from the bottom. But I really loved it. And now then in 2017 became an MP. And then after that, rather quickly, I suppose, really, because some the timing really of changes, etc., and the turmoil in some cases in politics. I started as the Apprenticeships and Skills Minister in 2020. And I think that's when we first spoke, actually. I think I was doing that job then.
Yeah.
And then I've had a couple of other ministerial jobs, but in the last cabinet, I was promoted to become the Secretary of State for Education.
Have you forgiven the person that suggested you go into politics yet, Gillian?
I have. You know what? I love it. You know, it's it's very different from the world of business, but having a background in the world of business really helps in politics. Actually, it really helps when you're trying to figure out how to get things working, how to deliver stuff. I mean, it's not directly comparable, but the experience is really, really useful, and it is really fascinating. And when you think about the size of the job, you know, Secretary of State for Education, which is effectively trying to make sure that every kid gets the best start in life, really from their, you know, the time they're born, to start in school or nursery and then school, and then making sure they have loads of different options to get on in the world, including apprenticeships and T levels, as well as the A levels and university that many people are aware of, and looking at then what we can do for people later in life when world's changed and skill sets have changed. You know, most of the people, I think 80% of the workforce that we'll need is already there, you know, that we'll need in 2030. So we really do need to also consider how we'll upskill people as well. If you think of the size of that challenge, there's nothing like it in business. So I don't regret it, because it's an unbelievable privilege and honour to do the role, and to be able to bring that sort of shop floor experience right the way through, and a Knowsley comprehensive experience as well, to be honest, and right the way through to, you know, how you give people the options. And, you know, the levelling up agenda that people talk about, you know, they say it's about recognising that talent is everywhere and opportunity isn't. And I honestly lived that. That's my life, living, you know, coming from a comprehensive school in Knowsley where there wasn't an awful lot of opportunity in the 80s. I feel like I really get that agenda.
And that private sector background will enable you to appreciate and understand the frustrations that many companies have in terms of being able to, or not being able to, attract talent, get the right sort of skilled workforce that they require. And that is a barrier to growth. And we've seen the impact that that's had over a 20, 30-year period now, really, on productivity in this country. And I know that you have some firm ideas as to how we should be looking at potentially changing some of the ways in which we deliver education, skills and training in this country. So obviously this conference is about innovation, it's about change making. I just wondered if you would share with the audience today your key ideas as how you'd like to see education, training, skills shift so that our business and productivity can improve moving forward.
I mean, you're absolutely right. You know, there's been skills gaps for a long time, to be honest, not just in our country, many, many countries. And productivity is lower than where we would like. And skills is a part of that. It's not all of it, but it is a decent part of that. So we've been doing some work for a long time, actually, since 2011, 12. And it started off, there's been lots of people who've worked on this, the Sainsbury Review, we've had the Wolf Review, we've had the Auger Review, and we've been looking at how we really strengthen our technical education in this country. So since we came into power, we did a lot of work at the beginning on school standards, you know, making sure most of the comprehensive schools in Knowsley would have been rated inadequate, making sure that there's many more better schools. So a lot of the school standards now, you know, I think 88% of kids go to a good or outstanding school. Then we sort of doubled childcare. And we may need to go further to look more at childcare, but we put a lot of effort into that when we first came. The university sector has been transformed. We all see that. I mean, Liverpool in particular can see that. I mean, it's buzzing, the university options, if you compare that to several years ago. But the technical education was the big reform to do. And actually, I was having dinner with Ken Clark recently, and he said to me, I was listening to a speech you gave, and it was almost the same as one I gave 30 years ago, because it's the same challenge that everybody's had. It may be different skills, and it's a continual challenge. But I really get the challenge, because I spent all the years that the businesses sitting listening to this, I've done that. You know, when you're trying to source digital cash and create a product that nobody's using in the 90s, and trying to explain to people that you're going to be, you know, clicking on things and paying on, you know, as you walk through barriers and everyone's looking at you as though you're mad. You need the skills to do that. I've always been in a situation where I've really needed quite highly sought after skills. So all of that work, we've got a number of things that we've got. First of all is the apprenticeship programme, and we've really completely redone the apprenticeship programme. We've done that with about 5,000 employers who have designed the standards with the Department for Education. So we haven't done it in a vacuum. It's been done with the businesses, and you can do anything now. I think that the last one I signed off when I was the Apprenticeship and Skills Minister was a space engineer. The first one I'm introduced since coming back is one I was determined to do, which is to become a medical doctor. So you can start an apprenticeship at the age of 18 now, with your fees paid for, as a medical doctor. Now, it's only been piloted, so we've got 100 places next year and the year after. But that shows you there is no limit to how far we can use the apprenticeship system to be able to have those earn and learn routes and have that route where you're really transferring knowledge. So I'm very, very proud of that. The next up is T-levels. So it's a qualification that sits alongside A-levels, which is for 16 to 18-year-olds to do. But it's really much more, and again, been designed with business, much more focused on skills areas that can lead to a job and to degree apprenticeships. So we've been rolling those out, and they're in digital skills, they're in, construction, but it's planning, building, design, and, really where you really need to understand within the industry, the equipment they use, the software that they use, and you also get a 9-week work experience placement as part of that. So that's a new offer, which we've been offering to 16 to 18-year-olds. For those people that want to have a short training to upskill or to get them into a new area, we've introduced skills boot camps. They're up to 16 weeks. Again, we've done them in digital. We did them in HGV driving, actually, when we had a load of, remember after the pandemic, there was a bigger dislocation and we had no one in the world could find any drivers. So we did these boot camps for anybody who wanted to get this new qualification, and they're all free. And there's also skills for jobs as well. So anybody who hasn't already got a level 3 in the areas where we've got shortages, we've got 1.2 million shortages, you can go on and get those full-time college courses as well. We're introducing something which I think is going to be 2 new things which are going to be really exciting. First is higher technical qualifications. So like the old HNC, which we still have HNCs, but there's not, we do not take as many of those level 4, level 5 as many other countries. And that's really the gap that we need to fill. So the higher technical qualifications, there's a lot of work on those to make sure that we have them in cybersecurity, we have them in data analysts, we have them in, hydrogen, we have them in some of the engineering skills that we need for the green revolution. So all of those, there's tons of them actually, will be available at the new institutes of technology, which there's 21 around the country. So there's a huge investment in that. And then the next thing we're doing, which I think is going to really unlock the system, and we'll be introducing this in Parliament next week, is what's called the lifelong loan entitlement. So today, if someone wants to go to university, they can get a student loan, they'll pay it back once they start earning over a threshold. Obviously, they can get a maintenance loan as well. If you want to do a higher technical qualification, or you want to do a year-long study of, a level 4 or a level 5, it's not as easy to get that loan. That loan's just not easily available. It's a different type of system, and it's not just pay it back as a tax when you start earning. So we're going to completely revolutionise how we do the student loan system, which will be for adults to be able to take them for a year or shorter courses, but only ones that lead to good outcomes. So we're going to start working on that to really unlock that level 4 and level 5, which is actually, when you look at the sort of skills that most businesses are needed, they are, a lot of them, in that level.
And Gillian, you'll be again as aware as I am at some of the frustrations business have in dealing with schools, for example. And I don't blame schools for this, because if you look at the approach that Ofsted take, they won't give much credit, if any, to schools that engage with business, get business involved with the kids. Is that something that you'd like to see more of? Because again, I think it was Einstein, wasn't it, who was credited as saying people who do the same thing expecting different results, that's the definition of going mad. It seems to me that our curriculum, sort of 11 to 16 age group, hasn't changed dramatically in like 40 years.
Well, aspects of the curriculum would stay the same. Maths is maths, right? So there's lots of stuff like that. The T-levels is a new big addition to the curriculum. That's an offer for young people. One of the issues we've had has been careers in schools as well. So we put a lot of investment into that, and to make sure that young people actually, now even reaching back into primary, get with businesses, to go into businesses to come into schools. So we've actually, that was in the Skills Act that we legislated for, to make sure that would happen. And we've also been funding the Careers and Enterprise Company to basically set up all of those business relationships, because sometimes at a school level, I remember going into a school in Kirby, and he said to me, look, I don't, not all my mums and dads are working in these like big industries. I don't have the network. The businesses aren't, there's not that many around me. And we've got Jaguar Land Rover, we've got a few others, but, they wanted help to try and get those connections. So we've put that in place as well. We're also going to do a lot more work on simplifying our careers service and trying to see how we make it much clearer, whether you're a young person or an adult. And one of the things we did just 2 weeks ago, which is we added all apprenticeships to the UCAS site. So when young people are looking at, and they do this in school, looking at what they need to study to get to certain courses or certain occupations or whatever, now all the apprenticeship routes, including the degree apprenticeships, higher level apprenticeships, will all be on there as well. So if you want to be an accountant, you can actually go and do an apprenticeship to be an accountant without going to university first, and get that training paid for, and get paid for while you're doing it. If you want to be a lawyer, the same. If you want to be a nurse, a policeman, the same. Or the 659 occupations. And so hopefully that will start to the curiosity to say, well, actually, I'm really interested in cybersecurity. I can do that as part of an apprenticeship and get there quicker. So that's what we're trying to do. And for those that want to do it full time, that's what the lifelong loan entitlement will also unlock, to say, actually, I could do that level 4 course, and that's what I need to get into that really cool job. And the one thing that is also probably not understood much is often level 4, well, pretty much always level 4 and level 5 apprentices out-earn graduates 5 years later.
Oh, wow. Well, that's some information I didn't know. So you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Gillian, in terms of those apprenticeships as well, am I right in saying that we're looking to put teachers through apprenticeship courses now? Is that an option as well that's being looked at?
Yeah, so first of all, what we have today is to do your teacher training. So after you've done your degree in whatever it is, then you do your teacher training. That's an apprenticeship route that's available today. You can do it full time, or you do it an apprenticeship route. What I've asked them to look at is whether we can do one that is a degree apprenticeship. So you do the subject matter as well as the teacher training, and how to do the teaching and how to impart the knowledge. So they're working on how that they can do that. And the reason I think it's important is I think there's a lot of people who would like to come to teaching as a second career. And it's easier sometimes because you have to earn when you're normally a bit older, right? You've got your bills, you've got the kids, you've got whatever you have to pay for. So sometimes being able to, move yourself onto an apprenticeship where you're working in the school, you're supported in your training, you go off 1 day a week or block release, however they do it, that will open up a whole new market. Plus, some young people may decide to take that route as well. And what it means is, they won't have to pay back any student debt, which is about 9% of your salary every year. So if you want to keep, some people want to go off and do it that way, but I want people to have all of the options, because for me, when I was younger, a degree apprenticeship was my life changer, and I just want more people to have the opportunity to get those high level apprenticeships, which get you straight into great jobs, and you get your qualifications paid for as well.
And the final point, just wanted to ask you about today. We spoke briefly before we started the recording today about the way in which you've been to Wales, you've been to Ireland, the devolved administrations that you're talking to, and we've seen skills and training devolved to an extent to some of the elected metro mayors. Is that something that you'd like to see expanded? Is it something that's being talked about, or do you think actually we need to get more consistency across the country and different approaches don't necessarily work in the area of education?
We need both. You need a system that's simple enough that everybody can see. One of the beauties of the systems, those countries that do technical education really well, one of the beauties of the system is everybody sat in a classroom knows what they are. They know if they want to get from there to job A or job B, they know how to get there. Ours is too messy at the moment. So you need these reforms to take place. You need them to be bedded in, and you need them to be clear so that every business knows how they can engage with it, and every young person knows how they can navigate it to get to where they want to go. However, in terms of how you then flex that locally, one of the things we did as part of the Skills Act is introduce these local skills improvement plans, which we're due to have back in the next month or so, which is the local employee representative body. So, you know, with the mayors and chambers of commerce and, you know, people who provide education, businesses, all of them to look together and say, OK, what we need in the next X is these kind of jobs. So to make sure we can try and match the provision that the colleges can put on or the universities can put on. So to try and have that conversation and make sure that we have the national system, but that can be flexed locally depending on, you know, what kind of job opportunities you have in your area. They're not the same in Chichester as they are in the northeast or the north or the northwest. I mean, there's similarities, right? Everyone needs nurses, everyone needs teachers, everyone needs police, everyone, you know, a lot of the public sector roles, there's similarities, but there's also lots of things which is, you know, specific to an area. So that's where I think the mayors and others can really you know, play a really important part. And we've done that with Greater Manchester and with the West Midlands to some degree. And we are always talking to them about, you know, how we can work closely together to make sure that they get the ability to flex locally to be able to, because they've got, you know, they've got the responsibility as well of trying to, you know, make sure that we're growing in these areas, make sure we're attracting businesses, make sure we're creating jobs. And obviously you need the skills to match that.
Gillian, it's been great to see you, albeit virtually, as I say. And next time we will get you along in person to one of our events, whether it be here or whether it be in one of our other locations. But thanks so much for outlining your plans. And I'm sure that we'll start to see some of the positive results that come from those changes, hopefully in the not too distant future.
Well, we've already had 5.4 million apprentices, but yeah, there's many more achievements to come. So yeah, I'm you know, I know I've done my job when everyone in your audience knows all of these and knows how they can access them. So it's my pleasure to join you. I'm sorry it's not face to face, but good luck with the rest of your conference, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Gillian. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.